Oh my God, is this even real? That's probably what you thought the moment you saw this. A lone cabin window, barely breaking the surface of muddy water, like a ghost of a machine swallowed whole by the earth. It doesn't move, it doesn't breathe, and for a second it feels fake, staged, like some cheap clickbait stunt. But take a closer look. This isn't a prank. This isn't a movie set. This is a live construction zone. And that buried skeleton is a real bulldozer. $500,000 worth of iron, sunk and forgotten in a pit of death. You're looking at the aftermath of a disaster. A Komatsu bulldozer, swallowed whole while racing to meet deadlines for a massive housing project. Here, dozens of trucks pour filled dirt non-stop. Bulldozers level ground at full throttle, and time is money. One wrong turn, and this happened. No ropes, no winches, no prep. Now, it's up to a handful of workers and pure muscle to bring it back from the mud's grave. But the real question is, can they? The first to roll onto the scene is a Komatsu D61PX, a rugged mid-range bulldozer weighing over 38,000 pounds, powered by a 6.8-liter, 130-horsepower engine, with a wide track base built for soft terrain and slope grading. This machine was born to push. But today, it's been called in not to push dirt, but to pull metal from the jaws of the earth. The operator lines up his machine at the edge of the pit. The plan is simple, dangerously simple. Scrape down the high edge of the embankment and build a makeshift ramp, something firm and gentle enough to get closer to the sunken dozer. The Komatsu growls into gear. Blade down, it peels back the slope, foot by foot. Wet clay and sand crumble beneath its weight, but slowly, a path begins to form. From a distance, it looks like progress. But underneath that calm surface lies 6 feet of thick, sticky, suffocating swamp mud. And what's buried inside is not just a machine. It's 38,000 pounds of dead weight, stuck deep in nature's concrete. Then, the workers go in. 3 men brave the murky water, waist deep, barefoot, careful with every step. They don't speak much. There's no time for small talk here. With steel cables in hand, they search around the cabin and track the submerged frame, looking for the safest points to anchor without damaging the undercarriage. After minutes of trial and error, they lock it in. The cable tightens. The D61PX roars again, crouching like a bull ready to charge. Pull, jerk, grind. But after just a few aggressive tugs, the operator feels it. Resistance. Slack. Wait. This isn't going to work. The line holds, but the sunken beast doesn't budge. No movement. No lift. No chance. And in that moment, it becomes painfully clear. One dozer is not enough. It's not even close. The D61PX had tried. It pushed. It pulled. It clawed at the swamp's edge and failed. The first rescue attempt had ended in silence. No movement, no lift, no signs of hope. But the crew wasn't giving up yet. A second bulldozer arrives, the Komatsu D58E, a smaller but still powerful machine. weighing in at nearly 33,000 pounds and powered by a 110 horsepower diesel engine. Designed for rough terrain, this older model doesn't look as sharp as the D61PX. But sometimes, muscle isn't about size, it's about timing. With 2 dozers on the field, the plan changes. Operators position the D58E next to the original Komatsu, right along the edge of the swamp pit. They now begin reshaping the area, working together, clearing wet clay, shaving down high spots, and widening the ramp to make room for a better pull angle. The air hums with diesel and tension. The 2 machines move in sync, blades down, tracks grinding into the soft earth. Each pass brings more visibility, more control, more hope. But beneath all of it, the buried beast still waits. Three divers, soaked, exhausted, return to the water. They feel their way along the sunken bulldozer's steel skeleton, wrapping a new set of 7/8 inch steel cables around stronger anchor points along the chassis. Muddy hands, low visibility, and the weight of failure hang over them like fog. Cables are hooked, machines are lined up, and once again, they pull. Both dozers rear back at once, engines roaring in stereo, tracks digging for leverage. Tension builds, cables tighten, mud boils, and then, nothing. The dozers jolt forward, the cable slackens, and everyone stares. It didn't move, not even an inch. They try again, this time from a different angle. Again, nothing. The buried bulldozer has become a part of the swamp, like it was never meant to leave. The D58E's operator looks at his partner, frustration in his eyes. The angle is wrong. The pull is misaligned. They can feel it. They just don't have the torque or the setup. But there's no time to redesign. They try again. Another set of tugs, another few seconds of screaming steel and roaring engines. Still, no movement. And slowly, it begins to dawn on everyone at the site. Twice the machines, twice the effort. Same result. This wasn't just about power. It was about physics and planning and everything they didn't have. The mud wasn't just holding the bulldozer. It was owning it. No one says it out loud, but the silence between attempts is starting to speak. 2 bulldozers, 3 men in the water, a half-dozen cable repositionings, dozens of pulls from different angles. Nothing. At first, they thought the bulldozer was just stuck. Now they realize it's buried, deep. Each pull loosens more of the soil around it, but instead of lifting the machine out, it only reshuffles the mud. The more they dig, the more the swamp seems to tighten its grip, like some invisible hand refusing to let go. They switch positions again. They shift cables. They try a lateral pull, a slow, angled drag from the side. The dozers lurch, the cable groans, and for a second, the sunken bulldozer moves, but only to sink even deeper. They stop. For the first time today, someone turns off an engine. One of the divers climbs out of the water, sits on a pile of dirt, and stares. Exhaustion is setting in. Not just physical, but mental. Frustration, doubt, silence. They had hoped that more machines meant more results, but instead of pulling it out, they're burying it further. The bulldozer's tracks, once visible, are now almost completely submerged. What was once a problem on the surface is becoming a problem underground. Every time they pull without lifting, the machine shifts lower into the pit, angled now, sinking by the ton. The mud is no longer just resistance, it's compaction, it's vacuum, it's grip, and every wrong move feeds it. This isn't about force anymore. This is about geometry, weight, water pressure. And a battlefield they don't control. For the next several minutes, the team continues trying. New angles, new cable points. But the results are always the same. A violent struggle, followed by nothing. What's worse, they begin to notice the damage they're causing. One of the dozers has started slipping. The ground beneath it is softening, and if they're not careful, they'll have 2 sunken machines instead of 1. The risk is rising. Morale is falling, and daylight is starting to fade. They came here to save a machine. Now they're fighting not to lose another. Engines groan. Exhaust fumes fill the air. What once sounded like raw power now feels like desperation. The bulldozers are tired. You can hear it. RPMs dropping, hydraulics straining, steel whining under pressure. The D61PX is sputtering, the radiator fan kicking harder than ever. The D58E is slow to respond, hydraulic delay from heat and fatigue. They've been working non-stop for hours, and the systems are overheating. But it's not just the machines. The men are slowing too. Movements are more sluggish. Communication is minimal. Nobody's joking anymore. There's only breathing, heavy, exhausted, almost defeated. The sun has dipped past the horizon. The sky turns gray. And that's when reality starts to set in. They're losing the day, they're losing light, and they're dangerously close to losing control. The thud of boots on wet clay has no rhythm now. Every step is heavier, every decision slower. A diver climbs out of the water and sits down, head low, dripping, shaking slightly. The others look at the machines. They still have fuel. They still have power. But what they're missing is direction. Every attempt so far has only made things worse. The pit is deeper. The machine is heavier, with gallons of mud packed into every crevice. The ramp they tried to build is collapsing under its own weight. And yet, they still keep trying. Because what else can they do? They can't leave it there. They can't afford to fail. But if they keep pushing, they might lose more than just one machine. And that's when someone finally says it. barely a whisper. We need something bigger. No one argues, because they all know this battle isn't over. But right now, they've hit rock bottom. The machines had gone quiet. The sky, now a dull gray, sank lower on the horizon. The air, once thick with diesel and shouting, had turned still. All that remained was the hum of fatigue and the quiet crunch of boots walking across wet, defeated ground. They were running out of daylight, running out of options. And for a moment, it looked like this machine would spend the night in the mud, maybe forever. But then the sound changed. Far off past the staging area, a new hum. Low, steady, growing louder. A truck. The men turned, almost in disbelief. Rolling slowly down the muddy track, kicking up steam and grit, was a six-wheeled flatbed. And on its back, their last chance. A Hitachi ZAXIS 210LCH hydraulic excavator, weighing in at over 46,000 pounds, with a six-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine pushing 160 horsepower. Equipped with a 31-foot reach and a digging force of 34,000 pounds, this wasn't just another machine. It was a scalpel, a shovel, a battering ram, all in one. And more importantly, it was fresh, untouched, cold, ready. No one said anything, but the energy shifted. Even the operator from the D61PX walked over, quietly watching. The truck reversed into position, ramps lowered, chains unhooked. And then, like a knight stepping off his steed, the Hitachi rolled down into the battlefield. Headlights on, engine low and calm. And just like that, the fight began again. The operator didn't waste time. He surveyed the site, scooping a quick test bucket of clay to check weight. Then, without hesitation, he began clearing a secondary ramp, cutting from the side, carving a gradual slope through the muck. Each scoop was efficient, precise. You could tell this guy had done this before. Within minutes, the worksite had a new rhythm, not frantic, but focused. One worker guided cables into the water. Another directed lighting trucks into place. And slowly, silently, hope started to return. There was no cheering, no loud commands, just the sound of a machine doing its job. Perfectly. For the first time all day, this didn't feel like chaos. It felt like control. The Hitachi ZAXIS 210LCH wasn't just strong, it was precise. And that made all the difference. While the previous machines had relied on brute force and adrenaline, the Hitachi brought something new to the battlefield: method. The operator worked with rhythm. Every scoop had a purpose. Every movement was calculated. He wasn't rushing. He was excavating with intention, removing the layers of mud not just from around the machine, but from under it. That's what no one had done before. Instead of trying to yank the bulldozer out from the top, he was digging a pocket of release from beneath, giving the weight room to shift upward. It was slow work, repetitive, almost surgical, but it was working. The clay was thick and sticky, clinging to every bucket. Sometimes it took 3 passes just to clear 1 square meter. But every chunk removed meant less resistance, less suction, less death grip. Above ground, the team was moving with new purpose. 1 man was stationed at the winch point, controlling cable slack. 2 others coordinated diver rotations, because by this point, no one could stay in the mud water longer than 10 minutes at a time. The air was getting colder. Headlamps switched on. Floodlights buzzed to life around the pit. The rescue mission had now become a night operation. And yet, no one backed off. For hours, the same motions repeated. Down, clear block, adjust cable, pull, stop. Try again, over and over, like a dance, like a ritual. Sometimes the bulldozer shifted, just a little. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes they pulled from the wrong angle and had to reset everything. There were no guarantees, no celebrations, just work. Hard, dirty, relentless work. And yet, beneath the frustration, something was building. Momentum. With each new pass, the Hitachi carved deeper into the mud around the buried bulldozer's undercarriage. It was like freeing a fossil from stone. You couldn't rush it. You couldn't force it. You just had to respect the process. And the operator knew that. Even when others paused, he kept working. 1 scoop at a time, 1 foot of ground at a time. He never overreached, never forced the machine. Just patience and experience. By now, over 5 hours had passed since the Hitachi arrived. The crew had gone through 7 full diver rotations, dozens of cable changes, and more than 100 excavator cycles. Still no full lift. But the shape of the bulldozer was starting to reveal itself. The slope around the pit was no longer a mess of slop and collapse. It was a pathway. The mud was lower. The air smelled like diesel, metal, and cold earth. Everyone was tired. Hungry, frozen to the bone. But no one wanted to stop. Because this time, for the first time all day, they were finally doing it right. It didn't start with a roar. It didn't even start with a sound. It started with a ripple. Just a subtle shift in the water, like something under the surface had sighed. The excavator paused. The operator leaned forward, narrowed his eyes. Another tug from the cable. Just a light pulse. And the ripple came again. This time, bigger. Then, a bubble. Then, another. Then, with a sound like fabric, tearing underwater, the bulldozer moved. Not much, just a few inches. But after 10 hours of failure, a few inches felt like a miracle. The crew didn't cheer. They didn't have to. They just worked faster. The excavator began carving a channel around the right track, giving it breathing room. The two bulldozers adjusted their angle. Cables were re-tightened, re-anchored, rechecked. Now, everyone was watching the same thing. The water line. If it started to drop, if even a fraction of the machine began to rise, then they'd know. They were winning. And then, it happened. The surface trembled. Not just a ripple, but a pull. Then, like something waking from the dead, the bulldozer shifted again. This time forward, not downward. The operator of the Hitachi raised the bucket, braced, and applied a controlled pull, using the full 34,000-pound digging force of the arm. The cable held. The front track of the bulldozer emerged, mud sloughing off its steel teeth. A sound rose from the crew. Not a shout, not a scream, but something primal. A release. A breath they'd been holding for 10 hours. And now, it was happening. Foot by foot, the bulldozer clawed its way out. The slope held. The cables didn't snap. The machine didn't sink back. For the first time in nearly half a day, the bulldozer was moving on its own. The headlights glared through the mud. The cab, once half submerged, was now free, caked in filth, bruised, but alive. By 11 p.m., the machine was on solid ground. The fight was over, and they'd won. The headlights glared through the mud. The cab, once half submerged, was now free, caked in filth, bruised, but alive. By 11 p.m., the machine was on solid ground. The fight was over, and they'd won. The tracks were warped. The undercarriage was packed with wet clay. One of the hydraulic lines had torn loose, spilling fluid into the pit. The electronics in the cab were soaked. The engine had water in it. It had survived, but barely. The repair bill? In a place like this, a remote, muddy, hours away from the nearest service center, could cost tens of thousands of dollars. Parts have to be imported, mechanics brought in, time lost. In the end, pulling the bulldozer out of the swamp may have been only half the battle. Now comes the other half, paying for it. But the damage wasn't just financial. The crew was exhausted, physically, mentally. For hours, they fought with everything they had, and nearly lost more than they saved. This entire rescue could have gone very differently. So here's what we learned. Lesson 1. Don't rush into a bad situation. The original incident, the bulldozer falling into the swamp, happened because of poor judgment and a tight deadline. In construction, cutting corners doesn't save time. It creates disasters. Lesson 2. Don't fight. Mud with muscle alone. Mud wins against brute force every time. What you need is planning, leverage, angles, drainage, clearance. Lesson 3. Use the right machine for the right job. The Komatsu bulldozers were strong, but not the right tools for surgical recovery. The Hitachi, used wisely and patiently, made the difference. It wasn't just what they used, it was how they used it.